Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. I am moderator of today's event. I'm Manzoorul Haq, a former president of the club. So today, our topic is the recent development in Rakhine state of Myanmar. That is, you probably all know that the United States has declared that atrocities against Rohingya minorities in Rakhine is an act of genocide, which is a welcome development because for very long, Western world was not a single country was recognizing it as a genocide. And this genocide has a very deep root that Rohingyas is systematically being uprooted from their homeland in Rakhine. That is, and Bangladesh is one of the victims because whenever there is a drive against Rohingyas, they flee the country and they go to Bangladesh. And first wave was in 1977, then again in 1997, 2012, 2017, and no solution to this problem. Now, more than 1 million refugees are in refugee camps in Bangladesh, which is an overpopulated country, not a rich country. So, still sustaining those, almost 5 years, and more, because some came earlier as well. And Bangladesh has always trying to convince international community that this is a serious crime, and world community has an obligation to solve the problem, to compel Myanmar to take back the people who the government has driven out of the country. But so far, there's an ongoing court case in International Court of Justice. And you probably know that even Aung San Suu Kyi, Nobel Peace Prize winner, she went to defend Myanmar government's position. And which is, and also international community remain more or less inactive in this matter also. So as a result of new development, there is new hope that probably things will move forward these days. And probably, if not all, some of the Rohingyas who are year after year in miserable condition in refugee camps is passing their life. And hopefully, at least some of them will be able to return. But Myanmar government has already rejected US declaration. They said, no, this is not a genocide. And there are other partners who are supporting Myanmar. But I think this is a welcome situation in that other countries will also compel to act, particularly because now focus of attention is in refugees. Everyone is taking Ukrainian refugees, then why not Rohingyas? They're very long ago over there. So I'll not explain further these details. So we have a guest speaker. He himself is a Rohingya refugee. First, he spent his time in refugee camp in Bangladesh, then came to Japan, and he's one of the very few fortunate Rohingyas to receive refugee status in this country. So, Zhao Min Htut, he's in Japan for quite long now, and he's also heading this Burmese Rohingya Association in Japan. So he'll be focusing on the problem and also highlighting the impact of this new US declaration and how the hope that probably Japan will at last might act after this situation, because Japan is very close to the United States. So there probably will be a moral obligation. So Mr. Htut will speak on this matter, and I welcome him. Please join me to welcome Mr. Zhao Min Htut. Yes, please. And after he finishes, we'll have session for Q&A. And some of the question I received already from online also, but first I'll give preference to journalists who are present here, then we'll move over to that. Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and all the viewers from YouTube live channel. Thank you for having me here and giving us an opportunity to speak on forgotten Rohingya genocide. It happened in 2017, but nowadays there are a lot of other crises around the world, especially in Russia and Ukraine problem. The other problem, the Rohingya issues have been in some way forgotten by too many peoples. Today, I take the opportunity to express our heartfelt gratitude and thanks to the Biden administration and the United States, all the people from the United States. We entire Rohingya people warmly welcome the US government official recognition and determination of genocide, that the Myanmar military regime committed genocide and crimes against humanity on Rohingya people. It is a remarkable milestone for Rohingya victims and genocide survivors, especially for us. The US genocide determination, which we have been appealing, is historic for not only Rohingya, but also all the people of Myanmar, for wider efforts to prevent and remedy genocide. I mean, Rohingyas genocide have already happened in 2017. Today, in Myanmar, in other parts of the Myanmar, on the other ethnic minorities, the same military is waging a civil war and killing everyday civilian people and burning their houses and in all over the other countries. So this determination will be very good a step to prevent this kind of atrocities in my country, not only on the Rohingya people, but also to the other ethnic minority peoples. At the same time, we are very grateful for all those who worked tirelessly to make this happen. Together with the Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Refugee International, Genocide Watch, so many other, Fortify Rights, so many other organizations, human rights organizations, and the Rohingya around the world, not only in Japan, in US, UK, in Germany, and other countries as well. They work together to come to this solution by the US government. I am very grateful and thanks to all my colleagues around the world. Here I am very happy to show you, my friend distributed a letter I want to show you, and on 24th March, exactly 1 year from today, we, Burmese Rohingya Association in Japan, a Rohingya community, has wrote a letter to Secretary Blinken to recognize Rohingya genocide officially by the United States. Today, proudly I can say United States government has heard our voices. Thank you very much to Secretary Blinken and his all colleagues from the State Department. Especially on these things, some of my friends from the US Embassy in Japan helped me a lot to encourage me to do this kind of the activities. I'm really thankful to them as well. Now, I want to go a little bit, what happened to the Rohingya people? Mr. CM, what he explained in brief, I want to go a little bit more. The Rohingya genocide not happening overnight. You need to understand one thing. This not happening overnight. It was happening for so long times. We call it before the slow burning genocide on Rohingya people. But in 2017, it becomes full blown up. With the full forces, they attacked on the Rohingya people and killed thousands The slow-burning Rohingya genocide had begun with the military coup in Myanmar in 1962. The successive Myanmar military regime implemented their long-term strategy step by step in a very systematic way to wipe out Rohingyas from Myanmar. Actually, Rohingyas are the ethnic people of an ethnic group of Myanmar, Burma, so before we call it Burma. And the Burmese government, democratically elected government, recognized Rohingyas as the one of the ethnic group of Burma. In 1962, when the military coup took over the power, they started to wipe out the Rohingya step by step by a systematic way. In 1974, Myanmar has a new constitution called it the Socialist Constitution. And they started to discriminate the Rohingya people. In 1977-78, a major violence attack took place on the Rohingya people, killed hundreds and raped and murdered and other arsons have happened on the Rohingya people, and 250,000 Rohingyas fled to the nearby Bangladesh as refugees. Those refugees repatriated again in 1979-80 from Bangladesh to Myanmar under the supervision of United Nations and the international community. When the Rohingya refugees returned to their home, Myanmar military government, they are considering how they can eliminate from Myanmar by law, promulgating 1982 citizenship law to make Rohingya stateless in their own homeland. So their plan was very systematic. In 1991-92, the Myanmar military regime again launched violence attack on Rohingya, killing mercilessly about almost 300 Rohingyas had took refuge in Bangladesh again. In 1993-94, started the repatriation of the Rohingya people, and some are still in the Rohingya refugee camps in Bangladesh. We call it registered refugee camp Kutupalong, and there are still more than 30,000 Rohingyas since 1991. They are staying over there. Again, major problem come here in 2012. The military and some extremist Rakhine jointly attacked Rohingyas, killed hundreds and burned down Rohingya villages, making 15,000 Rohingyas IDP in Arakan. 150,000 Rohingya IDPs in Arakan. They are still in IDP camps in Rakhine State for 10 years. Today, 2022. They are in the IDP camps. Their houses and their villages have been burned down, and they are now living in a squalid IDP camps. There is no any access from outside. They are surviving their life, in IDP camp in Myanmar, with the help of the United Nations, very limited rations. They don't have any access to education, healthcare, and work, and movement, nothing. They are confined in IDP camps for 10 years. In 2016 and 2017, under so-called democratic government, the military carried out last stage of genocide with full forces, killed almost 10,000 Rohingyas, raped thousands of girls and women, burned on children and elderly people, looted their houses and burned on more than 350 villages. Almost 80% of the Rohingya community has been destroyed. And more than 800,000 Rohingyas have fled to Bangladesh within 1 week for their survival as the refugee. Thank you very much to the Bangladesh government for opening the border to enter these refugees to save their life. And still they are helping the Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. There are almost 1 million Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. As you know, the Bangladesh is a very limited resources and a very populated country, and they have their own problem, and they are still taking care of our people for almost 5 years. Now, very soon, we can have the anniversary of 5-year genocide on the Rohingya people. Besides this, Rohingya have been enduring human rights violations for decades. I mean, since 1962, continuously we are discriminated in our own country. And we don't have any kind of basic human rights in the country. And they took away our citizenship rights. They restricted our movement. They restricted our education, our health care, our job. Forced labor is everywhere on the Rohingya people. And even they restricted our marriage. They don't issue our birth certificate for the children who are born from the Rohingya family. And we cannot move from one village to another village. We are confined in our own village. The children are not allowed to go to a school. So we are enduring for a long time this kind of the basic human rights violation. And our lands have been confiscated and gave to the other Rakhine people, Buddhist Rakhine people, by the government. Due to discrimination and violence attack, vast majority of the Rohingya people fled to other countries as refugees. Today, I can say you, almost 80% of the Rohingya population are out of the country as the refugees. See me and my friends. In Japan, we are around 350 Rohingyas living as the refugees. We are refugees. Not only in Japan, around the world, in every country, you can find the Rohingya refugees because we lost everything in our country. We fled the country to survive from the genocide going on Rohingya people for a long time. And it is very important right now to make way to return those refugees, especially living in Bangladesh, as squalid camps, to return to their original home in Myanmar with honor and dignity and full security. We appeal to the international community to do it immediately because these people are really suffering in Bangladesh refugee camps. The lives of refugees are harsh and unbearable. The future of refugee children and their education is most important. As you know, when we were restricted from going to a school in our country, most of the vast majority of the Rohingya people became uneducated. So the Myanmar military can do whatever they want. So that is why they made us stateless, they made us uneducated. Today we are suffering from this. Now our children are growing. Now they lost everything. They are in the refugee camp. They don't have access to the school and university and anywhere. So the international community need to take care of these small children for their future. Otherwise, we will lose our future generation as well. So we are very cautious about that. Those military genocide perpetrators again staged the military coup in last year, 1st February. The same military commander-in-chief Min Aung Hlaing, who ordered to genocide for the Rohingya people, he has staged the same, he's doing the same things to the other people right now in Myanmar. Now, those genocide perpetrators must be brought to justice. We demand to the international community to bring him to the justice. We are seeking for justice. Seeking a justice is not a crime. And this United States government declaration is a very positive step towards to the justice. I believe it. International concerted effort is needed, not only by the United States, but the other peace-loving people, peace-loving country, democratic country should join United States to seek the justice for the Rohingya people. In order to seek justice on behalf of the Rohingya people, Gambia, a small country, filed a genocide case against Myanmar at the ICJ in 2019, November. Thank you very much to Gambia and its people. But Myanmar government, so-called democratically elected government that time, and military government rejected. It never happened there. So they rejected the case at the ICJ. It is very regrettable for the genocide survivors. The ICJ considered the case and accepted the case and considered and issued 4 provisional measures to stop ongoing genocide on Rohingya people in Myanmar. But Myanmar government never complied it or honored those provisional measures. The genocide is still going on the Rohingya people who are remaining in Myanmar. I mean, they are not mass killing right now. In last 3, 4, 5 years, there is not mass killing on the Rohingya people, but other genocidal activities are still going on the Rohingya people. We need to stop it immediately. The case is still going on at the ICJ, but we don't know when the final decision of the ICJ court will come out. Maybe it takes some time. But in the meantime, we need to survive in the country, and the refugees should go back to their original home. Because we cannot endure for longer. Here, I want to emphasize another one thing. Since the Rohingya refugee problem started in 1977-78 till today, the Japanese people and Japanese government helped the Rohingya refugees in a various way on the humanitarian ground. The way Rohingya people are very grateful to the Japanese people for their generosity and contribution on the Rohingya refugees. Regrettably, I have to say that we Rohingya living in Japan, especially this Burmese Rohingya Association in Japan, calling to Japanese government for a quarter century that crimes against humanity and genocide have been committed by Myanmar military on Rohingya. calling for almost 25 years, 30 years in Japan. But regrettably in vain, they never listened to us. Japanese government even don't call us Rohingya. Can you believe it? Japanese government even don't call us Rohingya. Their ambassador in Myanmar call us Bengali. At the same time, their ambassador in Dhaka, in Bangladesh, sometimes he called us Rohingya. So their foreign policy on the Rohingya is not inconsistent. And again, the ambassador, His Excellency Maruyama in Myanmar, he categorically denied in 2019 there had no genocide in Myanmar. I don't know why he said like that. Now today, United States government, for 4.5 years, thoroughly investigation, with meeting with several people, several documents, analysis, and finally they came to the decision there have genocide genuinely happened. But Japanese government is still silent on this issue. They consider that Myanmar military committing crimes on Rohingya is normal. It happens everywhere. But we are insisting them. The things happening on the Rohingya people is not a normal thing. It is very dangerous thing going on Rohingya people for a long time. We have been in touch continuously with the Japanese Foreign Ministry, explaining our daily situation in Myanmar. But they never try to understand us. Unfortunately, they are still very silent on the issue. I have to say here, they prioritize their business interests and good friendship with Myanmar military leadership. You know, they are still training Myanmar military officers in Japan. Their investment and assistance in Myanmar is one of the topmost. So that Japan is the most important country for Myanmar military and Myanmar people as well. Being Asia's most powerful democratic country, Japan should review their policy on Rohingya, especially on Rohingya and overall Myanmar situation under the military new junta. They should take punitive action on Myanmar military regime over its genocide and crimes against humanity. What happened on the Rohingya people and what is going on in other minority areas and the crimes against humanity happening every day in Myanmar. Before I conclude my presentation, I want to emphasize the following recommendations to international community through your media outlets. First, all UN member states, especially Japan, should follow suit of US by acknowledging Rohingya genocide without further delay. It is very important for the Rohingya people, Japanese government acknowledgement. We need their at least acknowledgement. Number two, join Canada and Netherlands in support of Gambia case at ICJ. Number 3, US should lead, joining hand with Japan and its ally. United Nations Security Council to refer the case to ICC, which is already in process of criminal investigation. Those perpetrators must be brought to the justice through the ICC. And again, I would like to appeal to the United States and the other international community to make a special tribunal like the Cambodian Genocide Tribunal for the Rohingya genocide case under the United Nations supervision. We would like to appeal to the international community to consider this, because we need the very immediate action on the Myanmar military. And put total arm embargo on Myanmar, because the international community is selling, some countries are selling the arms to the Myanmar military, and those arms are using to kill the Rohingya and other ethnic minority people in Myanmar every day. That is why we need arms embargo on Myanmar. And exert maximum economic sanctions on Myanmar. Every country should do these things, especially Japan, because those monies are not going to the Myanmar people, and those money are going to the Myanmar military, and they are using those money to buy arms from the arms smuggler. That is why it is very important to exert the very strong economic sanctions on Myanmar. You see, today, international community put the strong economic sanctions on Russia over the Ukraine war. It is working now. Now Russian government is really feeling. So that kind of economic sanction should put on Myanmar for overdue. It is already too late. It should do that. Finally, I would like to appeal to the international community, especially United States and the other UN Security Council permanent members and the other countries and Japan, exert a strongest pressure for the immediate repatriation of Rohingya refugees to their original home with honor, dignity, and full security. So we Rohingya people are very weak in every space of life, so we need international community's help to solve our problem, because we are not capable of to solve our own problem. So we need your help from the international community, because we are already 80% of the Rohingya people are already out of the country, and we need to go back to our country. So Myanmar government is not allowing. Myanmar government is still calling us Bengali. They are not recognizing us as the citizen of that country. They want to make us second or third class citizen of that country. These military, they are promulgated the 1982 citizenship law to make us stateless. We had very long history in that soil, I mean in Arkan state. If it will take too long time if I go to, yeah. So it will, if I explain about the Rohingyas history, it will take so long time and it will not work too much. So if you can study these books in a very short way, I have the mention in these books. Please study these books, how Rohingya genocide has happened on the Rohingya people. Thank you very much. I will be happy to take your question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Htut, for this very elaborating and very touchy speech. So we'll now go to Q&A session. So before I am opening the floor to the present journalists, Since I have only one question received online through internet, so I first focus on that, then I open it to you. So this question is from Tomoko Tsuda from the Yomiuri Shimbun. And she's asking, Myanmar Junta-owned SSC, this Junta's own SSC has rejected US decision. And ICJ proceeding allow for the presence of the official from SSC's representatives. Under these circumstances, how can the voice of Rohingya be heard by international community? Also, what action do you want Japan and international organizations to take?
Thank you very much. Yes, we know they are, from the beginning, the Myanmar government and military are denying it, rejecting it at the ICJ case. We know that. Last month also, the military junta representative rejected at the ICJ court on the case. But we have a very strong evidence. The Gambia side says very strong in the case. The case is proceeding in the court, and we hope the decision will come out in favor of the Rohingya, because there are thousands of very genuine, authentic evidence, mass graves, mass rapes, and a lot of things are still existing in the hands of the Rohingya, and we are trying to cooperate with the Gambia, and we are trying to present it at the ICJ courts. So there is no chance for the Myanmar military to win the case at the court. That is why they are, from the beginning, they are rejecting the case not to accept by ICJ. So in this point, international community, especially Japan and other countries, can put Myanmar a strong pressure to accept the ICJ finding and to cooperate positively with the court, because seeking the justice is very good thing. The judges at the ICJ court will decide whether it was a genuine genocide or not, committed or not. So they should cooperate with the ICJ court, and Myanmar military should confess, yes, we did wrong. They should confess. And international community should force them to confess it.
Thank you very much. Now, floor is open. Please raise your hand, and when you're identified, come forward, introduce yourself, and ask your question. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, floor is open now. Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Ilgin Yorulmaz. I am a reporter for BBC World Turkish, and also I am the second vice president of FCCJ. Thank you for coming here today. I have a question about, first of all, confirmation of how many Rohingya refugees have so far been allowed in Japan versus United States. And also, I believe there is a Myanmar diaspora outside Myanmar in places like Singapore who are also against the Myanmar junta. Do you expect or do you hope that they will also support your cause in some way? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for asking the questions. It's very good questions. Regarding your question number one, if you are comparing with the United States and Japan, in Japan we are very handful people from the Rohingya community. In last 30 years, we just came around 120 Rohingya to Japan to seek asylum. From there, around 24 Rohingyas have recognized as a conventional refugee by Japanese government. The rest was granted as the humanitarian status to live in Japan. But unfortunately, I have to say, still some Rohingyas in Japan are without any legal status. Some are for 18 years, 20 years, 15 years, 10 years. Can you imagine, without any kind of legal status, he or she cannot find a proper job. He or she cannot earn for their daily life. So without any kind of proper status in Japan, living for 10 or 15 or 20 years is so difficult. So in United States, they took thousands of Rohingya refugees from Bangladesh and Malaysia and Thailand and other places. There are thousands of Rohingyas refugees living in United States. But in Japan, as I tell you, it is very difficult to come to Japan for a Rohingya because Rohingya doesn't have any kind of documents, legal documents. It is very, very difficult. We are very fortunate in coming to Japan, but Japanese government is not very welcoming Rohingya, even refugees in Japan. But in another hand, Japanese government is helping the Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh on the humanitarian ground, giving the food and the other the things, but not welcoming the refugees to Japan too much. And we have also some discussion with the Japanese government to bring some refugees living in Bangladesh, Thailand, and Malaysia and Indonesia as a third country resettlement program. But they brought 2 or 3 families from Malaysia last 3 or 4 years back. After the corona, when the corona started, I think they now pending the process. I don't know how many they will bring or not.
So she's from Turkey.
Yeah.
So I think Turkey has involvement helping Rohingya refugees.
Very much,
yes.
very much. I am really thankful. We Rohingya people are really thankful to the Turkish people and Turkish government. They, from the beginning of the 2012 genocide, the Prime Minister wife visited to the Rohingya community in Rakhine State, and she was crying when she saw the Rohingya situations on the ground in Faskans. She was crying, hugging the Rohingya refugees. So it is unforgettable, and we cannot forget that this kind of the generosity the Turkish people and Turkish government showed on the Rohingya people. We are really grateful and thankful to the Turkish people.
And Turkey has taken some Rohingya refugees.
Yeah, there are also some Rohingya refugees in Turkey. And Turkey also gave the scholarship for the Rohingya students.
What about the second part of my question? The diaspora outside
Yes,
Myanmar.
that is.
Yeah, outside of Myanmar, you mean the Myanmar people or Rohingya people?
No, this is the cooperation between those who are against the junta.
Dissidents.
Yes. Now, before the coup, last year coup, the diasporas in other community and the Rohingya communities, relationship was a little bit strained, difficult. But after the coup, most of the diaspora, other community people getting to understand the Rohingya situation. When they face the same situation in the hands of the same military, they are now realizing how the Rohingya have felt in 2012 to 2017 and the process of the genocide process. Now we have some kind of good relationship and good understanding. Now they are feeling, the same thing Rohingya have suffered in that time. Because they were misled by the government, government information. The Burmese people, all the Burmese people has misled by the military. Their propaganda is that these people are not from our They came from Bangladesh, they are Bengali, they are invading us. We need to push them. So the Myanmar people, other people said, yeah, it happened. Yes, maybe. So continuously since 1962, the same propaganda has made by the Myanmar military on the Myanmar people. So the Myanmar people has misunderstood. But after the coup, a lot of people realized it was misleading information. Now some people are accepting Rohingya people.
Okay, floor is open again. Yes, please.
Hello, sir. Thank you very much. My name is Francesca with Nikkei Asia. I wanted to ask about the Japanese response. You have had several meetings with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, as you mentioned. And so I wanted to ask you, what do you believe is standing in the way of Japan following the U.S. In recognizing the genocide against the Rohingya?
Thank you very much. Regarding the Japan, as I told in the presentation, we have been engaged, not only myself, these two, my friends are my seniors. They came before me in Japan. And we have been engaged with the Japanese government very continuously. Very continuously. We visited several times, I don't know, uncountable times, to the Japanese government to explain Rohingyas' daily sufferings since we came to Japan. But they listen. They are very good in listening. They listen. So this ka, hi. So this ka, hi. The Japanese the MUFA officials, they are very good in listening. But they never, I don't know, they don't understand us, or we are not able to convince them on the situation. I don't know exactly. They don't accept our explanation. They only listen, they only believe what the Myanmar government and military telling to them. I find it my own experience I am telling these things. For example, when the Kofi Annan Commission was formed, Kofi Annan Commission did the investigation and he found everything. After the Kofi Annan investigation, they did the 2017 August, the final stage of the genocide happened on the Rohingya people. And again, Myanmar government made the commission on the inquiry in Myanmar, COEA, including one member from Japan, Mr. Oshima, Ambassador Mr. Oshima, and another one, the Philippine former Vice Foreign Minister. And when we visited to the Foreign Ministry, we said, when the United Nations formed the International Fact-Finding Mission, so when they find vast the documents on the Rohingya genocide, they submitted it to the United Nations. Japan government is not very convinced on that one. But when the Myanmar government self-made the commission, issued the reports, Japanese government easily believe it. So you can see when the United Nations appointed International Fact-Finding Mission, reports came out, Japanese government is very reluctant to accept this. And always Japanese government voted or abstention votes at the United Nations Human Rights Council and United Nations General Assembly whenever the Rohingya issue come out at the United Nations. So the Japanese government need to understand Rohingya suffering, and they need to review their old and wrong policy on the Rohingya people. I have to say, their policy was wrong. We are explaining to them every time. And we gave all the documents to the Japanese government, but they don't trust us or something very strange. They never consider in a positive way on the Rohingya issues.
Okay, we have time for a couple of other questions. So, yes, Denny.
I'm Subendrini and I write for University World News. Can you tell me a little bit about your story, Mr. Zor? I'm very interested in how you came and then what kind of reception you got.
It's a personal matter.
No problem, no problem. I'm very open.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Rakhine State and went to the school in Rakhine State. And finally, I joined the Rangoon University. And after the student movements in Rangoon, I had to flee from Myanmar to save my life. And I came to Japan. Unfortunately, I was not allowed to enter to Japan. And I was detained at the airport. And I have been in the detention for 1 year. And I have to fight my case for the recognition of the refugee for 4 years at the Japanese Justice Court. Finally, before the decision came out from the court, the Japanese government recognized me as a refugee. Since then, I have been living in Japan with my family and my friends. And we have an organization and we have a community, very small community. Most of our community members are living in Tatebayashi, Gunmaken. Some are in Tokyo, some in Saitama, some in Nagoya. So we are very small community in Japan.
So he was also in refugee camp in Bangladesh.
Yeah, we visited in Bangladesh.
And did you stay in refugee camp?
No.
Yeah.
We visited to the Bangladesh refugee camps.
Okay, so we have time for maybe another question, a couple. Yes, please. If not anyone asking from the audience, so I have one question.
Yeah.
I want to know about this parallel movement of disrupting the Rohingya issue in Rakhine State, is this Arakan army. Can you please tell about that? Who is behind this Arakan army? And where from they are getting support? And they are now lodging sort of calling them liberation war. So what's their aim?
The Arakan army, in short AA, was in 2009, they started along the China and Myanmar border in Kashing State. And they form over there, and gradually they moved to Rakhine State. After 2012, Rohingya genocide started. Now, most of the AA's members are in Rakhine State, and there are other members still in Kashing State near the Chinese border. They have been very extensive fight with the Myanmar military until military coup, until 2020 November. But suddenly, we don't know exactly what happened. They have the ceasefire. Nowadays, after the coup, there are everywhere, except Rakhine State, there are civil war fighting everywhere. But Rakhine State is very calm, relatively calm, no fighting each other. Not fighting with the Rakhine arms groups and the Myanmar military. We don't know exactly what is behind the scene, what is the underground, the relationship with the Rakhine army and the Myanmar army. But we know one thing, between when they are fighting each other, the Japanese Prime Minister Special Envoy, Mr. Sasakawa, brokered the ceasefire between Rakhine Army and Myanmar military. So that I am emphasizing in this stage today again. Japan has a special envoy for Myanmar peace. The biggest genocide happened on the Rohingya people. This special envoy of the Prime Minister of Japan, Mr. Sasakawa, have ever met any Rohingya? He ever tried to help the Rohingya people? He ever tried to find a solution for the Rohingya problem? That is why I am telling again and again, Japan has the biggest responsibility on the Rohingya problem. When they are tackling, when they are discussing with the Karen, Kachin, Kaya, Rakhine and everyone, why not Rohingya? Rohingyas are not human beings? Is Japanese government, they don't consider us as a human being? We are suffering, everybody can see. Why not Japanese government not seeing us as a victims? For a long time. Because, you know why? We understand this. Because we are very poor people. If they support us, they cannot get back anything from us. So their interest is something else, I have to say. We have nothing to give them back. We are very poor, we are very weak. That is why Japanese government and Japanese special envoy, he ignoring us, our problem. You know, all over the world knows about the Rohingya suffering. Why Japanese special envoy never tried to communicate with the Rohingya community? Even from our side, we tried a lot of times to talk to him directly. In Myanmar, in Japan, I visited his office. But we didn't have an opportunity to meet him. And you know what his staff told me in once? We are doing everything in Myanmar for the Myanmar people. Myanmar government didn't recognize you as the people of Myanmar. That is why we cannot tackle your problem. His staff told me last 5 or 6 years ago. I stopped visiting his office now. So it is my own experience I am explaining to you. So it is the situation we are facing with the Japanese government. Japanese people are too good for the Rohingya people. Too good. But Japanese government policy has something wrong. We need to fix it. We are appealing to the Japanese politicians. We approach a lot of the Diet members. We approach a lot of the scholars in Japan, universities and other places. A lot of people are really sympathize on the Rohingya issues. But why not Japanese government? I am appealing again today through your media to the Japanese people. Please tell your government to consider Rohingyas as a human being, to treat us fairly, treat us equally, help us what you helping to the other people in Myanmar. We are bona fide citizens of Burma. No matter what the Myanmar military reject us, we are from Myanmar before, now, and then we will be Myanmar people. Nobody can deny our existence. They did genocide on us, more than 10,000 Rohingya have killed, but we are still very strong community, but we are scattered around the world. We need to find our destination, our home in Rakhine State. So international community need to help the Rohingya people. That is why I am here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zaomin Htut, for this getting us to know about the in-depth of the problem. I think most of you has come to know more about what's going on with this unhappy Rohingya population who have been driven out of their country year after year. So once again, thank you, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, And with this, we come to the end of today's press conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much.